My name is Elizabeth Hartwell, and I have never told this story before. I survived the Titanic, but what I witnessed that cold night goes beyond what anyone could imagine. I met Isaac Brennan during the voyage. He was a strange man with piercing eyes and calculated gestures. He worked as a steward in third class, but there was something different about him. His eyes were of such an intense blue that they seemed almost translucent. On the night of the sinking, as the ship began to go down, Isaac approached me in the dark corridors. His footsteps were silent, almost ethereal. "You need to know the truth," he whispered, gripping my arm with a supernatural strength. At that moment, panic set in. People were running in every direction, screams of terror echoing through the corridors. But Isaac seemed immune to the chaos, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that froze me completely. "We are not what we seem," he said, his voice a cold whisper cutting through the noise around us. His hands, once normal, began to change. His fingers elongated, and his nails became pointed like claws. My body trembled involuntarily as Isaac continued to stare at me. His eyes no longer appeared human. They were like two shards of bluish-green ice, almost translucent. "There are secrets on this ship that no one will ever uncover," he murmured, his icy breath touching my face. The smell was strange, something between brine and a metallic scent I couldn't identify. The screams around us seemed distant. The Titanic creaked, the wood splintering, the metal bending with horrible groans. But Isaac remained impassive, as if that destruction did not affect him. At that moment, I saw something impossible. His skin began to change texture, small greenish, scales emerging between the pores, almost imperceptible at first glance. My brain struggled to process that transformation. "We came before," he said. "Long before humans. The ocean belongs to us." A group of passengers rushed past, pushing us aside. Isaac did not move. He remained still like a living statue. His eyes continued to fixate on me, studying me as if I were a rare specimen. Isaac's transformation intensified. His human features slowly distorted, revealing something that could never be explained by science or reason. "We are the guardians of the abysses," he whispered, his voice now a guttural sound, almost like a snake's hiss mixed with the sound of breaking waves. The deck was chaotic. People were running, crying, praying. But Isaac? He seemed completely indifferent to the despair around us. His hands, now fully transformed, had webbing between the fingers, like those of an ancient marine being. I remembered sailors' tales of mythical creatures, legends of beings that inhabited the depths of the oceans. Isaac was not just a man. He was something more, something that transcended human understanding. "Many will die tonight," he said, "but some will be chosen." A shiver ran down my spine. His eyes now glowed with a light of their own, a blue so intense that it seemed to absorb the darkness around us. The Titanic creaked, splitting in two. The frigid waters of the North Atlantic began to swallow the ship. And Isaac? He smiled. A smile that was not human, revealing pointed teeth and a silent promise of something far beyond death. The waters were a freezing nightmare. Bodies floated, screams mingled with the sound of debris. But Isaac, he was different. He did not feel the cold. He did not shiver like the others. "I will protect you," he murmured, but his tone was not one of comfort. It was a declaration, almost a sentence. I then realized that his skin was constantly changing. Sometimes it seemed human. Sometimes it had greenish reflections like marine scales. His hands pulled me close, keeping me near as the chaos of the sinking enveloped us. "Our people have been watching for millennia," Isaac said. "You are just temporary passengers in this domain." I saw something incredible. Small creatures resembling him emerged from the dark waters. They were not human, nor were they entirely animal. hybrid beings with luminous eyes that watched the sinking as if it were a ritual. The cold consumed me, but Isaac kept me strangely warm. His movements were fluid, unlike anything I had ever seen. He did not swim like a human. He glided through the water as if he were part of it. "Many will die," he repeated, "but some will be chosen to know the truth." Dawn revealed a scene of horror and mystery. The few rescued survivors looked like ghosts, but Isaac, he was different. When the rescue ships arrived, he simply vanished. He did not swim, did not dive. He simply dissolved into the dark waters as if he had never existed. In the following years, I obsessively investigated. I discovered ancient records from sailors that spoke of similar creatures, beings that inhabited the depths, observing humans as a sort of experiment. Isaac was not a man. He was something more. An ancestral guardian of the oceans, a creature that existed long before any human civilization. His words echoed in my mind. "You are just temporary passengers." In my nightmares, I saw his luminous eyes watching me, that supernatural blue that seemed to hold secrets of thousands of years. I knew he was alive, that he was watching me. Sometimes, decades later, when I looked out to sea, I felt his gaze. An invisible presence, but definitely present. The Titanic was just a chapter, a demonstration of power, a warning. After years of quiet investigation, I discovered secret documents that connected Isaac to an ancient lineage of marine beings. They were not just legends or mythology, they were carefully hidden historical records. At the Naval Museum in London, I found a diary of an officer that described creatures similar to Isaac in previous expeditions to the Titanic. Marginal notes spoke of guardians of the abyss, beings capable of metamorphosing between human and marine forms. Isaac belonged to an ancient underwater civilization. They were not just creatures, but a complex society that had been observing humanity for millennia. Their mission? To monitor our species and intervene when necessary. The sinking of the Titanic was not an accident. For them, it was a ritual, a way to demonstrate power and select the chosen, people with specific characteristics that could be useful for their kind. My survival was not by chance. Isaac marked me that night, something I only discovered years later when strange marks began to appear on my body, small translucent scales that emerged during the full moon. In 1935, I made contact with a group of hidden researchers studying inexplicable marine phenomena. They confirmed the existence of an underwater society that Isaac represented. They called this civilization the Deep Ones, beings that evolved long before humans, with technology and knowledge that transcends our understanding. Isaac was a kind of ambassador, responsible for observing and occasionally intervening in human events. Confidential documents showed that these creatures not only observed, but subtly manipulated historical events. The Titanic would be just one example of how they could influence human history. Physical characteristics of these beings: complete metamorphosis capability, adaptable breathing in water and land, telepathic communication, extreme longevity, centuries of life, blood with a chemical composition different from humans. Isaac had a specific mission that night. He was not just an observer, but a selector. He chose people with special genetic or mental potential for possible future interactions. My connection with him went beyond a simple encounter. I had been marked for something greater. The mark that Isaac left on me was not just physical, but a deep genetic connection. Small modifications in my DNA began to manifest years after the sinking. I discovered that my blood had unique characteristics: accelerated regeneration capability, resistance to extreme temperatures, enhanced sensory perception, especially near large bodies of water. Secret researchers who were following me documented inexplicable changes. My hearing picked up underwater sounds imperceptible to normal humans, During the full moon, I developed a translucent membrane between my fingers. I could stay submerged for hours without needing to breathe. Isaac did not choose me by chance. I had a genetic predisposition that the deep ones had been seeking for generations. I was a kind of bridge between two species. In 1950, I had my first real telepathic contact with other marine beings. Fragmented images of submerged civilizations, technologies beyond human comprehension, silent invasions. My mission was to be an observer, a channel of communication between two realities. The deep ones were not just a civilization, but a complex intelligence system that existed long before humanity. Isaac was merely an agent, a messenger of a network of beings that controlled the oceans. I discovered that there were different hierarchical levels: observers like Isaac, territorial guardians, leaders manipulating global events, scientists studying the evolution of species. My transformation was part of a larger project. They were preparing me to be a communication channel, a bridge between worlds. Every change in my body was calculated. Each genetic alteration had a specific purpose. Secret documents. I was able to access revealed long-term plans, constant monitoring of human civilization, preparation for possible intervention scenarios, selection of individuals with adaptation potential. The marks on my body were not just physical. I now had a mental connection with the depths. I could sense ocean movements, foresee tsunamis, perceive climate changes before they happened. Isaac visited me occasionally, not physically, but through mental projections. He transmitted fragmented information about the future of humanity, about changes that were to come. The truth was more complex than anyone could imagine. We were not just being observed, we were part of a global experiment. In 1975, I received the final revelation. Isaac contacted me on a full moon night through a telepathic connection that transcended any human understanding. The truth was terrifying. The deep ones were not just observers, but architects of our reality. The Titanic was merely an experiment, a test to assess human resilience and select individuals with potential for evolution. I discovered that several historical catastrophes were orchestrated by them. Some shipwrecks, certain extreme climate events, subtle modifications in ecosystems. My final function would be to be a communication channel, not just to observe, but to prepare humanity for an inevitable transformation. The oceans hold secrets that humanity is not ready to comprehend. Entire civilizations exist in the depths. Technologies beyond human imagination are hidden in the abysses. Isaac revealed to me that in approximately 50 years, there would be a great transition event, a change that would completely alter human understanding of its own existence. My mission: to prepare the ground, leave traces, create bridges of understanding. On the night of March 15, 2025, something happened that defies all rational logic. I was in my apartment when I saw Isaac again, not as a physical being, but as a translucent projection that passed through walls. His eyes were no longer blue, but a deep green that absorbed all the light around. "It's now," he said, without moving his lips. Suddenly, all the mirrors in the apartment began to liquefy. Not shatter, not crack, literally melting like wax, flowing in hypnotic movements. The water in the vases started to rise vertically, defying gravity. My body began to change. It was not pain, it was transformation. Membranes between my fingers expanded. My skin took on greenish reflections like marine scales. Isaac smiled, not a human smile, a smile that contained all the secrets of the oceans.